Just gonna make this video as I'm waking up and getting ready. So I woke up at about 5:15 this morning, roughly, a little earlier. I say the morning prayer before I get out of bed, right? And I go to use the bathroom because, of course, it's the morning, first thing in the morning. Of course, I gotta pee. I get in the bathroom, and the shitbag roommate, the liberal, has taken the nastiest fucking shit recently and didn't turn on the fan. So I am ambushed by this revolting assault on the senses, the worst fucking smell. Now, the roommate's a pile of shit, so this is not out of character. This is completely normal for him. The guy is such a piece of shit. I fucking hate that guy because of shit like this. No, that's not what this video is about. There could be a fun character thing on that guy. So that guy is a big pro-marijuana advocate, right? He bullshits, he lies, he's a piece of shit. He's also a registered sex offender. I didn't know I was moving in with a registered sex offender. Fucking life sucks. Craigslist, money, blah, 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 rent's cheap. He said he was moving out, and I was like, oh, thank fucking God. But he hasn't left yet. And I'm kind of thinking with that, it might be better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Right? See, I thought, or I hoped, I should say, I dared to hope. God always slaps me down when I hope. But I dared to hope that maybe, because we're in the Bible Belt, and, you know, sort of a white Christian area, which I am attributing North Carolina's resistance to the corruption, which is signified by, you know, medical marijuana, legal marijuana, etc. North Carolina hasn't resisted completely, but it has resisted greatly in comparison to other states. I attributed that to white Christianity. So my hope was that, well, maybe this is an area full of good people. But unfortunately, this is not the case. Despite being a red state and the Bible Belt and white Christian, blah, 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 yeah, no. The roommate, for example, had a girlfriend with a son named Mike. Mike, of course, big marijuana user and a thief and a junkie. And I don't know if he did harder drugs. It might have just been marijuana. I don't know. I didn't meet him, but I know that he stole a whole bunch of stuff from all the farmers in the area and tried to hide it here on the property. Now, he's all about, you know, Joe Biden forgiving his marijuana convictions, but these marijuana convictions prevent him from being hired, and that's good because everywhere he's been hired, he's stolen from. The marijuana convictions work, and Joe Biden couldn't give a shit less about the victims of his crimes, right? Anyway. So, yeah. The other people out here experience I had, aside from all the shitty neighbors who smoke weed and are pieces of shit, like the guy who was stealing the scrap metal for meth money, yeah, the brother of the guy with the dog named Ganja, right? Yeah, clearly yet another connection of marijuana use with crime. Thievery. Right? Yeah, the landlord had a girlfriend at one point. All she did was steal his chainsaw and then never came back. And that's funny to me, because I told him a million times, dude, you're supposed to be a Christian, man. You're not supposed to have sex outside of marriage. There's a reason you're supposed to get to know them first. You can't understand why you're not married, why you don't have a wife, but you keep going for whores instead of actually following, you know, the laws of God and waiting until marriage before consummation. You don't draw the connection there? Okay. Yeah, so despite being a white Christian area, people out here are shit. But nonetheless, this is about God. last night, for the second night in a row, I didn't masturbate. I didn't break the law of Odin, and I'm glad that I didn't. I'm attributing this somehow to some sort of strangely Catholic magic, right? Like the Catholicism is having this, well, from a secular scientific perspective, this psychological effect on me, to where it's somehow creating it that I'm not giving into lust, which I'm glad about. I hate looking at porn. I hate masturbating. I hate doing the wife simulator. I'd rather just have a family and a wife. However, this is like the skinniest and most muscular my stomach has ever been. Which, of course, I attribute to the daily exercise. But masturbating does help with that gastric motility. So it does prevent diabetes, or assist in my prevention of diabetes. Which is funny in itself, because marijuana is not medicinal. Diet and exercise is. Why aren't doctors, forcing people to do diet and exercise? That just cracks me out about the timeline. Cracks me up about the timeline analysis, right? I recall in learning more about Nazi Germany, when people were calling Donald Trump Hitler and a fascist, in my opinion, this was an insult to Adolf Hitler and the fascists. Donald Trump's a piece of shit. Doesn't care about his own people. Fascism, for example, was good. It caused Germany to lower its cancer rates. If Donald Trump was a fascist, he would arrest the owners of the McDonald's industry as well as Philip Morris, etc. And then force fat people into concentration camps, but they would be called fat camps, to force them to lose weight for their own good. And he would outlaw, high fructose corn syrup and just soda, Coca-Cola, all the things that make America fat and dumb and diabetic, or as he would put it, great. Oh, man. And there isn't a pill to that, right? Like, in a fascist society, if I had authority, I could have my roommate thrown up against a wall and beaten every time he does something shitty, like not leaving the fucking fan on after he takes the nastiest shits. The guy lives off cigarettes and energy drinks, and he works the night shift, and he works over 40 hours a week. So I understand it's not his fault. He could have just been sleepwalking, whatever, but fuck if that wasn't the worst experience in the morning. But then reading the morning prayers, right, in the Art Scroll Siddur, that actually really helped my mind move on from but man, so yeah, instead of being rewarded by this magical god cause and effect relationship between rewards and not sinning, I got punished, right? I didn't sin, didn't masturbate, fucking punched in the nose with the stink of the roommate's poop. That's another worse thing. He does stuff like this, and it'll make me hate him for a while, then eventually I'll forget. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll be like, don't be pessimistic, maybe he's not so bad, and then he reminds me why I should look for the worst in others, because it's always there. Now, the reason this is all relevant, it's a prelude to more on the timeline analysis. If we look at this period, right, 1900s America or late 1800s to the early 1930s, 1950s, this was the peak and height of white American Christianity. The 1950s was when America was its whitest, a 90% white demographic, and the most Christian. This is where capitalism took root in the United States, arguably. And then the 1960s on was Whitey's decline of Christianity and whiteness. So where I live right now, you would think that being in a white Christian Bible Belt area that people would be moral. They're not. The drug users, what I call the wigger chimps, because the guy's white, but he wears like red Yeezy sneakers, and he walks black, and he talks black, and he hangs out with black people, and he smokes weed. And it's really funny. The guy's like a clown. He even has rims and blasts ghetto rap, gangster music, and everything. It's quite hilarious. He's quite the spectacle of what the white man once was, compared to the white man has become. The white man has been Africanized by the Jew through rap music and Hollywood. But arguably, the African has been Europeanized to some level, which definitely an improvement. No more bone through the nose and the plate and the lip. Anyhow, another example. The woman who was supposed to come over and help with the dog never did. Never heard back about that at all. Right, the woman with the hemostat. Yeah. I'm glad she didn't. I could have accidentally ripped out the dog's like larynx or something, thinking it was a turkey bone. So, whew, good thing we went to the vet. But just dealing with the stupidity, the assholeness, right, and the lies of white Christians and white non-Christians and non-white Christians. It completely dispels the notion of vague generalizations of, oh, you know, liberals are bad, therefore conservatives are good. Oh, atheists are bad, therefore Christians are good. Oh, Christians are bad, therefore Jews are good. Right? Like, etc., etc., etc. And a quick caveat here, contextual thing. When I've said I bet that these German physicians were largely German Jews, I don't mean all of them. I'm just guessing. I don't have any, evidence to back that up quite yet. I could probably search for it, maybe. But I am willing to bet, just based on the hereditary IQ thing, that a good percentage of them were definitely of Jewish German lineage. And I'm also willing to bet that so were the scientists in Operation Paperclip, right? The Nazi engineers who created things like the Stuka-Fliege and all this stuff. Yeah. Ah, man. It's kind of a shame Germany lost. They did such amazing things. And to think that the Allies fought for trans kids and Black Lives Matter riots and Antifa, it's such a... Like Jason Hayden killed a World War II veteran who fought the Nazis and thus fought against racism, and he was killed by a black on marijuana in a schizophrenic episode, likely. Way to go. So even right now, the roommate is cooking bacon. It's 6 a.m. He is too stupid to consider others and therefore, not stink up the house at 6 a.m. That smell disgusts me after being kosher for so long. I find it revolting. If not sinning means reward, like all the money I gave to Israel, right? Bless those who bless the name of Israel. You would think that some sort of divine intervention would happen to where I wouldn't have to tolerate this. I mean, this isn't suffering. This isn't the worst thing in the world. This isn't life-threatening. This isn't an injury. But, bleh, right? You would think, oh, well, Gabe's been pious. He's been doing his best. He kept kosher for so long, and he's going back to being kosher, blah, blah, blah. He says his prayers every day. He still struggles with some sin, but he prays for help, which is a weird thing in itself, right? If you're like a lawyer and God's a judge, you could say, well, God, I specifically prayed that you would make me stop sinning or help me to stop sinning, and then I kept sinning, therefore it's your fault because you're all powerful and you're supposed to answer prayer, according to your teachers, according to the humans that represent you in your name.
Ergo, it's not my fault. Because I tried to stop it with your help. You refused to help. Ergo, it's your fault. But anyway, yeah, no. There's no reward for not sinning. I'm sure both rabbis and Christians would say, oh, you got the big plan. You don't understand it yet. There is a reward. It's in the next world. Yeah, that sucks. It really does. What? Oh, yeah. Sinning means you get money and big boobs, prostitute life and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't sin, then your life's really shitty in this world, but it's awesome in heaven. Oh, yeah. Oh. To me, that's like just a slap in the face. And, I know Christians who are like that. I know Mormons who are like that. I know Jews who are like that. Oh, yeah, it's a reward in the next world, the world to come. Right, when Mashiach returns. Yeah. But the Old Testament, as the Christians call it, is very specific about earthly rewards and earthly punishments. So if I'm putting all this money into Israel and Jews and saying my prayers every day and keeping kosher and not masturbating, etc., and things only get worse, this is the scientific method that disproves all of it. Disproves the Bible, disproves that God cares about his people, that God cares about any people, blah, 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 and so forth and so on and so forth and so on. And that's a weird thing in itself, right? It's like, oh, well, why do the righteous prosper? Why do the righteous suffer and the wicked prosper? Should you hold God accountable for that? There was another point that I was going to make, but I'm forgetting it. Now I remember the point. So Christianity has a whole thing about how you're supposed to be poor. And of course, Joel Osteen and Calvinists, etc., will disagree with that. You get the prosperity gospel. You get a lot of rich Christian con artists, but I think that is a significant aspect to the history of the United States. So, technically, right, when you look at this aspect here, 1930s to the 1960s, for Christianity, I'm pretty sure there's a thing where poor equals moral and rich equals bad, equals immoral. It's hilarious, given the Vatican's wealth, etc. But that's another aspect onto how capitalism corrupted Christianity and freedom. So when I pointed out that Jews, like Netanyahu and his, two faces, just like Trump and his two faces, right? Trump's hilarious lies showing his two-facedness could be, oh yeah, death penalty for drug dealers, compared to him legalizing hemp and CBD in 2018 with the Farmers Act, right? Oh yeah, I'm going to execute the drug dealers, but also I legalize the drugs. Netanyahu, same thing. He struck a deal with the Haredim. The Haredim are the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel. But then he's also like, oh yeah, Christians are welcome in Israel. Oh, so are Scientologists. We like your money. So it's not just Jews who are like, oh, well, the laws of God tell us not to do this thing, but there's money to be made. Yeah, no, Whitey does this too. And that's a perfect example of 1960s America onward with drugs and sex, etc. Sure, Christianity told them to stay poor, and poor is closer to God, and poor is moral, but who wants to be poor? Being poor sucks. That's the appeal of the prosperity Christianity. God rewards us with money. Financially successful wealth, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's all this 1960s on is just selling out. Corporations got better at manipulating the customer with commercials, etc., with ads, movies, and all that stuff. Ergo, Christianity was corrupted by capitalism. Yeah, and another aspect of these white Christian drug-addicted liars, right? I don't know. I don't think all white Christians are drug-addicted liars. Well, if they're Christians, they're liars, obviously. But that doesn't mean they're lying on purpose. Some of them are so stupid they believe the lies they're told in church. But white Christian lying drug addicts create this sort of American atmosphere where I'm constantly having to contend with stupidity and dishonesty. Constantly. For example, this morning, I confronted the roommate briefly. He was going out to smoke a cigarette. He's a piece of shit. And I said, next time, can you turn the fan on? And he said, I didn't use the bathroom. And I simply replied, well, somebody took a shit and it wasn't me. And then he just walked out because he knew he was full of shit. And now with the roommate, the other one, the dumb one, the Trump supporter, he told me that the eyes see, the brain don't see. So I had to explain to him, well, I didn't have to. I explained to him that the occipital lobe is where the images from the eyeballs are processed, and there's an ocular nerve and the chiasm and all this stuff, right? The ocular chiasm. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called right now. And he gets angry when he's confronted with the truth. It's so weird. It's like he'd rather believe his lies, and the truth pisses him off and angers him because the lies are more comforting, I guess. I don't know. I'd rather be smart than stupid. I'd rather know the truth than the lies. The discomfort is temporary. I'm much more comfortable with an accurate perception of reality than an illusion.